When people think of the Celts, they often think of the Roundhouse. Falcha Moharada, welcome to the Fortress of Lug. This channel is supported by your generosity. Consider becoming a clan member today and help the channel build and grow and get access to a lot of unique behind-the-scenes content as well. The Roundhouse has become an iconic symbol representing the Celts, yet in reality, this is only true for Celts in Britain, Ireland, and parts of Iberia. Despite its popularity throughout the Bronze and Iron Age in Britain and Ireland, we don't see an extensive use of round structures in Gaul, for instance. But why was it so popular amongst ancient insular Celts? The origin of the Roundhouse took place in the early Bronze Age with the introduction of an Indo-European peoples which displaced and replaced the Neolithic populations. Before this, the Neolithic peoples generally built oblong-shaped structures of a design not dissimilar to examples found in mainland Europe. But the incoming population eventually created their own unique style, which remained largely intact until the early Middle Ages, when, due to Roman influence and later Saxon, Norse, and continental influence generally, they changed the style of architecture gradually and adopt styles more similar to that found on the mainland. That this style was common to Ireland, Britain, and parts of Iberia is part of the evidence that demonstrates an ancient connection and a cultural zone in the Atlantic region that shared various concepts. But why a roundhouse? From a structural standpoint, the roundhouse is more resilient to strong winds. There are no corners for the wind to catch on, the roof is at much less risk of being lifted off in a storm. So far from being primitive, one could actually see the roundhouse as an innovation in design to cope with the specific climate, and it was a technological advantage. The roundhouse will also distribute heat evenly throughout the interior, with the fire pit generally located at the center of the home. However, there are disadvantages as well. It's difficult to build a large roundhouse due to the size of the timbers required for roofing. The larger the circle becomes, the longer the timbers required for the roof, making it increasingly difficult. Large roundhouses required several layers of internal pillars to support the roof trusses. With rectangular or oblong buildings, it is simple to elongate them with no additional technical difficulties. But there's certainly another factor, likely one more important to consider beyond simple technique, especially when we consider that these houses were being built alongside stone circles. That is, the shape of the structure almost certainly reflected the people's spiritual conception of the world. It's generally agreed that the Proto-Indo-European conception of the cosmos was that of a flat, disc-shaped earth. This is described in some detail by Greek sources as early as Homer and Hesiod. The outer layer of the earth was surrounded by Okeanos, the great river. Within that, there were various bands of climate regions, and at the center of the earth was the Omphalos, which to the Greeks was considered to be Delphi, and to the ancient peoples of Britain might well have been a site like Stonehenge, but it almost certainly varied from region to region. The roundhouse then is seen as a reflection of the nature of the cosmos, brought down to the family level. And we have an actual Celtic myth to support this identification. So the Grand Palace of Conchobar mac Nessa is the perfect example as the house being seen as a reflection of the cosmos. In the very center, residing in an elevated position above all others in the house, is the couch of Conchobar, placed within the central ring of pillars that supported the roof, and just below where all the beams converge like the spokes of a wheel. The center of the house and this wheel-like convergence is then seen as the celestial center. Around the outer wall of the house are 12 other apartments for those champions of his household, corresponding to the 12 signs of the zodiac or the 12 months of the solar year. There were 365 people in the household, and there were 30 champions as well, corresponding to the days of the lunar month. And finally, the Vat of Gare, a vat always full of coal mead, and I don't know if I recommend grinding up coal into your mead. This likely has a spiritual significance that we don't really understand the meaning of anymore. Anyway, this vat was said to be on the floor, likely in the very center of the home where the fire is located, representing the bounty of the earth. So the house becomes a representation of the cosmos, with the family residing inside of it, just as everyone resides upon the earth, with the roof of the sky above us, upon a circular level plane. Conhovar is here playing the role of the utmost support of this cosmos and the grand celestial controller. It is likely that Arthur's Round Table is a later reflection of this same sort of idea. As above, so below. Just as the king embodies the god, the house embodies the cosmos. The center of the house is the omphalos of the family, just as the world tree is the roof pillar of the sky and the omphalos of the earth. So while it can't be demonstrated that this conception is why the insular Celtic houses were round in origin, it is reasonable to assume that this conception at least played some part in its development and continued use. The design of the houses in Britain and Ireland changes due to a religious change and outside cultural influence, but the continued interest in this style of house by reenactors, history enthusiasts, and the general public is a reflection of the important part it played in the life and spiritual conception of the Celts of Britain and Ireland. A big thank you to my Patreon subscribers, Grove Mila Magat, As Jack Agus, Marigoni, Shaskell Hard.